Hello, this is a video presentation for the Arizona Corporation Commission commissioners and stakeholders in the Utilities Division, specifically for the Resource Planning Group. I'm talking today about the electric utility monopoly breakup and how we can give our communities bigger control over their grid. My name is Brian Hageman, and thank you very much for watching. Electric utility monopolies are just like the board game. If you land on one of the squares in the board game, you have to pay fees to whoever owns that square. And just like in real life, if you own a house in the territory of the electric utility monopoly, you have to pay that utility and you don't have any choice. Monopolies cause a strain on the economy because monopolies have to be heavily regulated because they could basically just charge whatever they can get for their electricity without regulation. So the regulation, it has to be heavy and in place, and it's usually the commodity price, the fuel price to make electricity is the determining factor on how much they charge for electricity, plus all their overhead. But they'll be coming back to the Arizona Corporation Commission every year with a new rate case, trying to increase their fees because of the increase in fuel costs. Monopolies like APS, Arizona Public Service, owned by Pinnacle West, trade common stock on the New York Stock Exchange. So this causes even further strain in our economy with the monopoly because everybody that owns stock in that company is expecting a return on their investment through dividends paid on the number of stocks that they own in that company. So every time you pay your electric bill, if you're paying an APS, you're paying not only the company, but you're paying dividends on the electricity you buy to the shareholders that own stock in that company. Monopolies like SRP, Salt River Project, are not traded publicly. They don't have publicly traded stock, but they still look at APS as a model of how to charge their customers. Their revenue base is based very similar to a publicly traded company. Just they can charge a little bit less for their electricity because they don't have to pay the dividend. Similar to the Bell system, telephone companies, Ma Bell, back in 1982 when they broke up into smaller telephone companies around the country, the electric utilities can be broken up into pieces. And through this presentation, I'll show you how we can do that and why we should do that. I recently attended the Solar Power International Conference in Salt Lake City last September when with over 19,000 people that attended, proved to me that the home electric market is rapidly changing. My presentation to the conference gave an economic look using the technology adoption life cycle and showing exactly where the rooftop photovoltaic industry is at. You can see in yellow, PV industry is here. The PV industry today is less than 2.5% into the full market. You can see the curve, the bell curve, shows the market in the technology adoption life cycle. That shows that we're just finishing probably the first stage of innovators in the market. And what this tells me, and the takeaway from the conference, is that we're well underway to changing the way we buy electricity, changing the way our system can adapt to a non-monopoly type of system. I was also showing off my thermal storage battery to the industry there in Salt Lake City. All the feedback I got from my underground thermal storage system that can supply enough thermal heat to use 24 hours a day to power your house was very well accepted everywhere. Typical electric storage systems right now have to use lithium type batteries. And the best they've got in the industry is a storage of about 2 hours, maybe up to 4 hours. But nobody can do overnight 24/7 like this design can with solar thermal storage. The alternative energy industry has proven, though, over the last 30 years now that we're well on our way to changing the electric grid system and that we're ready for that next big step. And we'll talk about that in the next slides. One of the directions that many cities across the United States are going towards is what's called community choice aggregation that's permitted in 8 states in the United States. In Arizona, we can go beyond the community choice aggregation and give electric users control of their own grid. One of the closest cities to Arizona is probably Rancho Mirage, California, where my parents moved there 4 years ago when they first started this community choice aggregation program within the city. If you look at the Rancho Mirage website, they've created an energy authority that puts themselves into the process of where your electricity comes from to your house. The energy authority has the power to dictate where the electricity is going to come from, whether it's renewable energy, fossil fuels, or nuclear. The energy authority will do what they feel is best for the citizens of that community, giving some community control over the electric grid and giving residents in their city a feeling of some choice and a feeling of disconnection from the electric utility. The electric utility still bill their customers, but there's the new third party involved with the Rancho Mirage Energy Authority to tell the utility companies where the residents want their electricity to come from. It works very well, but Arizona can do a lot better. Okay, this is a typical substation that is a natural breakpoint in the grid. We start off on the left-hand side where the transmission lines or sub-transmission lines that you see are the huge transmission lines that run cross-country, feed electricity into switches. There's a first set of switches, and then it goes into a step-down transformer to lower the voltage, and then goes through another set of switches, and then out to the distribution lines that go to your residential area or maybe a commercial industrial district. But this is the natural breakpoint right here at the transformer. The utility company can still control the transmission lines, and they would probably prefer to control everything up to the transformers. But then after that, ownership could be transferred to a new entity. Ownership of the substation and the downstream wiring to each customer electric meter can then be transferred from the monopoly utility to a new business entity. The new business entity could be maybe a co-op owned by the substation customers and managed similar to an HOA, homeowners association that we already have in many of our neighborhoods around the county. The new entity would be a true nonprofit company, still regulated by the Arizona Corporation Commission Utilities Division. This type of monopoly breakup would require a state law legislation in order to encompass the electric monopolies in Arizona, including SRP and APS. And then the new substation entities would be regulated by the Arizona Corporation Commission. For an example of the substation breakups, I did a case study that I wrote for the city of Long Beach, California, to show how distributed energy systems could be plugged into each of these substation points. Again, these substations are a natural break, but it's also a place where distributed energy could be plugged in real easy, rather than trying to plug into the big transmission wires, cross-country transmission wires. These substations provide the break already naturally there, where we can plug in distributed electric generating stations at that substation. This is a map of the Long Beach city in California. A lot of you recognize the harbor here that is a big commercial harbor, but it also has the ships that run over to Catalina, and also the Queen Mary is docked here. In Long Beach City, there's 47 substations. Their population is 470,000, so that's about one substation per 10,000 people, which is a fairly good rule of thumb anywhere in the country, that one residential substation will provide about 10,000 people, maybe more. I've been proposing a project in the Long Beach Harbor area. The Long Beach Harbor basically breaks here this is the Los Angeles River that dumps into the Pacific Ocean at the Los Angeles Delta, now being completely concreted around it by a harbor and the city, downtown Long Beach right here. But right here is a substation called the Pico substation, and it's located on the harbor side of the Los Angeles River. I was proposing a hydrogen-powered electric generator and desalination system that would serve 4,000 homes, or about 10,000 people, and located right here in the harbor. Or it could be used to produce electricity for harbor customers. Again, we were showing at the substations is a great point where distributed energy can be plugged into the grid. It's easiest to do right at these substations. Some substations are pretty tight and don't have the room to add on any power plants, but many substations have extra land around it where renewable energy can be plugged in. This list shows the approximate number of substations that would be located in the top 10 cities population-wise in Arizona, from Phoenix with 167, approximate 167 substations, down to Surprise. I'm blocking that, but it's about 14 substations in Surprise and 18 substations in Peoria. But again, these substations is where we could break out new entities. You total up all these few hundred substations, and so there would be a few hundred new business entities, co-ops, or just pure nonprofit organizations that can distribute the electricity to your house and control the neighborhoods and be community involved with community input. This is the Mountain View substation in Sun City that provides electricity to my home. The electric wires between the substation and homes in my neighborhood are safely underground. The Sun City Mountain View Electric Co-op, the new entity that could be set up, would give the community-based control over billing to residents and be able to specify where we get our electricity from, whether we want 100% nuclear or fossil fuel or other types of energy from alternative energy. It's at the substation again here at Mountain View substation that solar power could be plugged in here fairly easy. There's a lot of vacant land on the substation and around the substation. Parking lots at the post office next door, or church parking lots could be covered with solar power that would power our neighborhood here in Sun City. These projects could be financed internally by the HOA And basically, the price of electricity should drop a lot. Maybe half of what you're paying now, because the HOA or co-op entity that owns the substation and everything to the neighborhood could purchase electricity through power purchase agreements directly from power plants like Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant, and then they'd be charged a fee for running it over the APS transmission wires. But then the cost should drop quite a bit with the ability to have community-based microgrids like this. Thank you for taking the time to view my presentation on breaking up electric utility monopolies. If you have any questions, please contact me at info@brianhageman.us.